Everything always is so much better when it's free. So easy to believe there will be nothing left for the next generation. They don't make species like they used to. We're falling apart like the shitty cordless phones we make. It's cheaper to replace us than fix all the problems we've made.
I want to draw everyone's attention. We had a really great show last week, if I may say so. Representative Mike Calton was on. He's the architect of the dispensary bill, the provisioning center bill. He was very, very open, very honest, and while that will be an issue, I think, in the upcoming months in terms of how things kind of draw out of that, it's a good interview, and those that have questions about what does this bill stand for and what is the intent of it, I think you can get some good information in listening to those. You can listen to that archived on the Planet Green Trees.ning, Blog Talk Radio, Planet Green Trees. Also, we've got it broken down in different segments on the Planet Green Trees YouTube, if you want to watch it and listen to it there. All right. So I'm going to do a quick rant, and then we're going to come back and do some calendar stuff, talk a little patient activity with Mike McShane, and get some news from Rick. And I just want to go on for a couple minutes, as I like to do every week. I was moved by an article that I saw, which is entitled "A Judge's Plea for Pot." It's written by Judge Gustin L. Reichbach, who 3.5 years ago, on his 62nd birthday, was diagnosed with a mass cancer tumor on his pancreas. It turned out to be stage 3 pancreatic cancer. He goes on in this article to talk about the demand of going through chemotherapy, radiation, the brutal surgery, and then how his cancer disappeared and then came back, and the nausea and the pain, and just what it's like to be a patient. It's just terrible to read because we know people and have interacted with people that have gone through all of that. And there's nothing special about this particular person. It just takes on some more significance because he's a judge, and he's still a judge, and he's going public with this. But pain is pain, and cancer is cancer, and it sees no boundaries, and it sees no economic classes nor professional classes. As the judge says, inhaled marijuana was the only medicine that gives him some relief from the nausea and would stimulate his appetite and make it easier for him to fall asleep. He goes on to talk about how this is not a law and order issue. As we often say on this show, this is not a public safety issue. It is a medical and human rights issue. It's a public health issue. As he was being treated at the Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, which he received the gold standard of care, the doctors could not provide for him the palliative relief that only marijuana would. He goes on to talk about 16 states, now 17 states, have permitted the legitimate clinical use of marijuana, albeit many of them are being challenged because of resilience of political gain desired attorney generals. But what moved me was, as he talks about this, he says, given my position as sitting judge, still hearing cases, well-meaning friends question the wisdom of my coming out on this issue. But I recognize that fellow cancer sufferers may be unable, for a host of reasons, to give voice to our plight. It's another heartbreaking aporia in the world of cancer that the one drug that gives relief without deleterious side effects remains classified as a narcotic with no medical value. Because criminalizing an effective medical technique affects the fair administration of justice, I feel obligated to speak out as both a judge and a cancer patient suffering with a fatal disease. I implore the governor and the legislature of New York, always considered a leader among states, to join the forward and humane thinking of the 17 other states. Medical science has not yet found a cure, but it is it's barbaric to deny us access to one substance that's proved to relieve the suffering. So this is a very moving story. Important in the sense that this judge, who is going to be criticized by his peers in this establishment that I'm fighting against, of the recognition of cannabis as a medicine. But I think this translates well because this is a mainstream article. It's someone that would not normally be speaking on this, and it shines a different light on it, which leads us into this. There was an important Attorney General race taking place in Colorado, and it was between the former U.S. Attorney Dwight Holton and the Attorney General. What's her name? Anyway, the Attorney General, former U.S. Attorney, lost in a landslide defeat in the election in Colorado. The race was determined by the medical cannabis issue, and it was a landslide that the former U.S. Attorney lost. I posted a picture in jest that the candidates, if you looked at the two of them, one was miserable looking, if I may, and the other one was happy, and it was, of course, the Attorney General that won, who and was in favor of medical cannabis. And it was just a attempt at some humor. But nevertheless, the point that I want to make is this, that the political issue is in the forefront, that the medical cannabis issue is going to determine every vote moving forward, and it is going to be something that is going to change the way the electorate acts when it goes to the polls. Today now, with Connecticut just recently becoming the 17th state to adopt medical cannabis laws, we find ourselves in a situation where the majority of people in the country, 73% now support it. And the resistance to it is by a few, but they still maintain power. What we know is that there are now 1 million state-approved medical cannabis patients in the country, 1 million. And everyone, almost everyone knows someone who's a patient or knows of a patient that is benefiting from it. Parents who are suffering from cancer and MS are tired of asking their kids to find marijuana for them for their treatment. It's time now for this majority view to start making a difference. We're seeing it happen across the country. Judges are now mainstream discussing it, and we know that it had a tremendous impact on the race in Colorado. But it brings me to my own personal experiences as of late, which is that I've been in trial the last 3 weeks. I feel like a fighter in the 13th round that's been getting knocked around, and I shouldn't be. The process of trying a case should not be a battle against the prosecutor and the judges, but it is. And the rights of defendants are always being challenged in courts, and it's difficult, makes things more difficult when you have those types of people. What I'm saying is this, because as I sit here challenged in trying to get justice and just fairness in a court for my client, there are people in elected positions that need to be voted out. And the only way to do that is for our community as a whole to organize, to be one, to understand who the candidates are, what their stance is on medical cannabis, and vote them out if it's a bad stance. I know that the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, our number one priority in the months coming ahead, is to do this, to identify those candidates and ultimately provide a slate or a recommendation of candidates in the area by which our community is going to be voting. I know other organizations are doing this as well. VGIP, Jamie, we discussed this before, is engaged in the same kind of process. And we at Planet Green Trees are also going to be encouraging and getting the politicians on the show, calling them, having them call in and get them on record as to what their stance is. This, of course, will evolve the conversation. This will make the conversation much more mainstream, but more importantly, make the candidates realize that we are a large group of voters, that we stand united, and that we are going to come out and vote, and that they better listen to us, and that we are going to make a difference, and that the judges that are destroying the act, the judges that are ruining the rights of patients and caregivers that should never have been dragged in the court, are going to have their last say when they lose at the polls. So that's the story, that's the plan. Let's get it together. We're going to take a quick break. The call number is 1-347-326-9626. We'll be right back.
I was born into has a future